Excited to see you here. So, held in the Swiss key resorts in the middle of the mountain, normally in the winter. So, every year, the World Economic Forum is actually holding their annual meeting, which is called Davos. And I'm sure you heard about Davos many, many times. But this year, obviously, things have been different. But the pandemic shifted the normally winter meeting into the spring. So, what happened in Davos? What's my take on it? What is your take on it? This is what I invite you to be following today. So stay tuned with me. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the channel. My name is Frankie, and I'm the founder here at the Media Community. We are your global green energy company. Have you heard about that before? If not, you need to know that. What you do is very simple. If you look aside, you need to know the energy sector. You need to see that so that you can connect, you can understand, and see how you what you can do that people can do. What does it mean? Live that, for example. If you have a lot of money, that's what it's like. If you decide to buy it, if you have money, you know where to invest it. So if you have an idea, if you have a key economy growing, and put your money to invest, you just don't have enough information. That's it. When it comes to renewable energy, how many you can all information that means renewable energy? You hear this thing that you start to think. What it means that if you try to gather as a person to do that, giving us a young entrepreneur, it's like you want to be growing, into the sector, but you again missing the key vital piece of information that's going to help you to drive forward. You'll find as well in here all the information you want. So make sure that you connect with all our platform because we're actually broadcasting from many platforms today. So we have LinkedIn, we have Facebook, we have YouTube, we have Twitter, and we now have Telegram. That's 5 channels. So you cannot take any excuse whatsoever to say that you can't connect with us. And also, if you're also a professional, simply because, as I say, you're curious to see what does the sector has to offer to you. How do you make your way from wherever you are? Maybe you're a doctor, you want to jump into the sector. Maybe you're an engineer in a different field, like I used to be, you want to jump into the sector. Maybe you're in a banker, you want to jump into the sector. But again, you're just missing the information to make you feel comfortable, to help you to drive, like I say, your move into the sector. In this channel, Renewables in Africa channel, you'll find all the information for you. And as I say, we're looking at the sector from a global perspective. And you can see as the topic that we're having today, Davos. Davos. Everybody heard about Davos. So what's your take on it? What do you think about it? I want you to drop a comment and to let me know what you think. And also, as I'm speaking to you today, feel free to just drop a message. Give me a question. So let me know what you think. And I'll make sure that I will definitely uh, give you the information around it. And the reason I'm talking about Davos, right? Because I think many people usually will say it doesn't matter. I know there is a strong anti-establishment sentiment that is growing. They say even like Davos doesn't matter at all. I come from a slightly different perspective, saying that it's not a question whether we like or we do not like, but we need to understand what's happening. And we need to understand how to position ourselves. We need to understand how can I anticipate, use that to anticipate what's happening and to see as well if there is any opportunities. Because as I'm going to be talking to you today about 3 crises that obviously have emerged, right, through these events, how can you position yourself as a business, and how can you make sure that as you position yourself as a business, you make sure that you keep it clean as possible, right? This is what it's all about today. Oh, by the way, thank you already for sending me question. I can see Veronica is following. Thank you, Veronica. I'm excited to have you here from Tony Pash Energy in Nigeria. Excellent. So how is it going in Nigeria? Do you have a question for me regarding Davos? What is your take, Veronica, on Davos? Let me know what you think. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. But before we actually now dive into the event per se, so what's happened in Davos and what's my take on it? So some of you would have heard about Davos, but not properly understanding what it means or what it represents. So I wanted just to give you a snapshot of what it is, right? In fact, Davos, so some of you will know or may not, this is it has become the flagship event of the World Economic Forum, right? And in fact, Davos, the summit as it is, was actually created in 1971. So if you do the math It means that this year we're actually celebrating the 51 anniversary, right? And also, what is quite special about this year is actually we should have celebrated the 50-year anniversary live, but because of the pandemic, it was all virtual, it was all online. I even attended an event on Davos that was all side event that was organized last year to celebrate, not to celebrate, to participate into the conversation, right? But this year, like I say, is the first time I think for 2 or 3 years, 2 years most likely that night has come as a live event, not just a face-to-face event, right? So last year was virtual. So and it was invented by an economist and also German guy called Klaus Schwab, and it's happening in the eastern Alp mountain in Switzerland, as you know, right? And throughout the year, it has become, as I mentioned, the flagship event of the World Economic Forum, and it's only an invitation only event, right? And usually it will happen in January, so in the winter, right in the middle of the winter. But the pandemic shifted that, and usually, so the event would bring together, right, CEOs of the 1,000 members companies as well as selected politicians. All the main head of state would tend to congregate there because that's where they meet, they discuss. You also have representative of academia, of NGOs, you have religious leaders, you have the media, all of these alpine environment, right? And usually the discussion would focus around key global issues, right? Like we have, for example, globalization, capital market, wealth management, international conflict, environmental problem, and so on and so forth. And also, the participant would take part in role play events, right? So including investment events. So it has become, as I say, a very very important um, summit every year that people are doing, and usually the key leaders, business leaders, and industry leaders, so will use this event to meet and discuss about those issues. And as I say, so whether we like it or not, it's important for us to understand what's happening and how can we position yourself and how can we use that to move forward, right? So that's the question for me. We have to connect about it. So if you were following, for example, one of the live that I did, I think it was on last Wednesday, if I'm correct, I was saying that yes. So demonstration is a form of expression. It's absolutely needed. So is it the most effective? I don't know. I don't personally think so. Or basically, if it's demonstration alone, obviously it won't take you very far. So there needs to be a proper organization. You need to be people operating at different level, including there needs to be people that would engage, lobby with world leaders to tell them what we want we want to see as a change. If you're not able to do that, then you're not going to be able to make any change at all. You're just going to be complaining on the side, trying, but nothing ever gonna matter and gonna change. So for me, understanding what Davos mean, as I first of all, it's important, it's critical. Yeah, understanding that if you wanna get the world to focus on to look at your issue as your issues, you understand that events like Davos, you want to find a way to have a voice there, right? And also for the rest of the public, also understanding what has been discussed in those platforms. It's very important for you to understand what's going on around the world and how does it connect maybe with your local issues, right? And once you have this knowledge, it's about how can I play my game, right, to understand it. So now back into Davos in 2022. So I did not travel to Davos, right? But obviously I did had a specific look at what happened there and to understand what was going on. And essentially, what I want to talk to you about here specifically are the different crises that I have seen that are emerging, right? So in terms of this summit, and I've talked about obviously there's many things that has been covered, many have been covered, right, in the summit per se. But I've actually highlighted three for me that for me are essential, critical for people, for readers that you are following. By the way, I still don't see enough of your questions. So what is your question? Do you have any question at all, or maybe you don't have question? If you're listening to me right now, I'm sure you may have something going in your mind. Tell me, what question do you have for me? So what question do you want me to respond in relation to the topic of today, which is Davos. What's your take on it? What is your personal take on it? So I'm happy to listen to that, right? And obviously, at the end of it, once I've finished talking about the free crisis that I want to talk to you right now, so I'd be happy to respond to some question if there is any, right? So let me talk about the free that I wanted to discuss with you about. So the first one that I want to talk about, it's related to what's going on. In fact, all of it, that's why it's interesting. All of those free crises that I'm going to talk to you about are actually related to one central event this year that's happening. And that has been happening now for 3 months. And we now have entered the fourth month. And it's a war in Ukraine. Yes, the war in Ukraine. So we enter the fourth month. So, and it's essentially definitely tragic. Whatever side of the question you're sitting in, it's not something that anybody can celebrate, right? Let's recognize it. Let's be honest about it. We can't celebrate that. This is completely abnormal. It has to stop one with another, right? How is it going to happen? I don't know. That's beyond my current level of inference. I can only share with you what are the consequences. And I can notice three consequences, three main crises that have developed as a result of that. The first, so as you all know, is the energy crisis. And I've talked enough about that and I've reported that. So in previous episodes, when I was talking about the fact that, yeah, started in Europe, the more directly connected because Ukraine, it's a European country, and you could say that because of the crisis, 40% of the gas coming from Russia. So obviously, Russia has been using the gas money to fund to support the war effort because war takes a lot of effort, you know, a lot of money in it. So clearly, you can see that the Russian government will be directing some of the budget toward assisting the war. That we know. And Europe having to stop that will obviously apply some sanctions. So Russia to retaliate will stop gas supply, and you can see how things are unraveling from there. So it brings a big energy crisis, definitely at least in Europe, right? That we can see. And now obviously Europe is taking measures and I've been looking to boost now alternative source of power, including for the moment, we hope for the moment, boosting again some fossil fuel, that which was not actually the cost of the direction. So just a few months earlier, right? But that's what's happening. So energy crisis is quite big, and it's sort of a translate now in moving to a second crisis that we all are aware of, which this one is a lot more global because the energy crisis, yes, it's sort of a focus into Europe that is feeling the pinch, right? So feeling it more than other people on top of the normal casualty that we have from war. The fact that you have a lot of displacement, people fleeing Ukraine, moving to other parts of Europe, and obviously that's have some repercussion on other different states. But what I'm going to say is what is actually another crisis that has developed a lot more global into it. It's the inflation. And again, I've talked about that and that's the second crisis basically that I want to talk about, which, as I mentioned, those are topics that have been discussed in Davos, right? So they've been congregated that discussed that because as you know, the Ukrainian President Zelensky has been addressing the audience and asking for a number of requests, including sanction to Russia. So you have various nations that have been there, sort of had a voice what they had to say regarding the conflict, including people representing India, China, and so on and so forth. Middle East. So definitely, it was a key topic. This is what I'm saying here, right? But energy crisis and yeah, what the repercussion was. So the second crisis I mentioned was the inflation, and this one is a lot more global. So whether you're moving from the Americas to Europe to Middle East to Africa, clearly inflation is quite up now, right? So the prices of oil and gas scan up is driving things like crazy. I feel it, me personally. I definitely can see it. Let me just give you, for example, an example, which is quite interesting. Or maybe not so. So if it's interesting in a bad way, put it that way. So, for example, with my wife, we own our house, right? So, and as normal, every year we pay for an insurance for the house, for the structure, for the building. And guess what? I've just received a quotation. I've received a quotation for the next year, right? So, which is meant to be starting in June. And guess what? The price has more than doubled. The price has more than doubled. I was shocked when I saw that, right? Yes, I could understand, I don't know, 5% increase, 10% increase, but come on, more than double. That's crazy, right? The more than 100% increase, then you understand now how you really feeling this inflation. And it's actually everywhere. Like I say, I'm the first one. As I'm speaking to you here, I feel it. And I know you're feeling it. Wherever you are in the world, you're feeling it. Why? Because the world has become a global village. That's the thing. This is what I'm also saying. We can't look at issues happening somewhere in the world and thinking that we detach from it. We're not affected. It doesn't matter. It does. It does matter. So this is what I say. It does matter. So it's important for us to understand what's happening and to see what we can do to help the situation one way or another. And the way for me that I can also potentially start doing it is to sort of bring some kind of attention so that you can you can see that. Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. So what I'm feeling, I know you're feeling it. I know you're feeling it, and I know it's quite tough. It's really hard. So for you, let me know, for example, so from an inflation point of view, what is that have you felt? What have you felt? What have you seen that obviously was very difficult for you to digest, right? So this is the thing, yeah. So that inflation part, it's crazy. It's crazy at the moment. Like I say, throughout my lifetime, I'm sure I've seen some episodes, right? But still, man, what we experience right now, it's quite special in terms of just inflation. And as a head of the family, I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it as I speak to you today. And also, to be honest, as I said before, this has not started with the war, right? It started slightly before that. So, like I say, is it in preparation of the war? I don't know. I don't want to go down there because I don't have enough element to say such a thing. But I can say one thing: it started before, but now there has clearly been an acceleration. There has been an acceleration of what's happening, what is happening right now, right? So that's a consequence, and this is obviously a topic that was clearly discussed and recognized at the Davos summit. So what can be done to alleviate the pain of the citizen, right? So of everybody else, so that it can be controlled a little bit. Because let me tell you what the reason is important is. So if you don't, and all of that, obviously, as you can imagine, will push price of energy up. Same thing for me. Energy bill has been going up, and you could be asking me, so what's the connection with renewables energy? And this is the thing. I like you and I to understand that, whatever area you evolving into, wherever you are, everything is connected. It has an influence. So energy prices going up, right? It means that to some extent that can obviously push as well. If for example in the solar industry, that will push the price of your panel up, right? And we were used over the last 10 years, the cost of production of solar going down, down, down progressively. Over the last 2 years, this is stabilized and now climbed up a little bit more, right? So, and this is not what we clearly would want to see as well. And this actually is impacting that directly, right? Cost of EPC is gone up because of that. So that inflation part, it's a very important thing. So it may have the potential to slow down the energy transition. This is actually what I'm saying there. It's also because now of the crisis, and for example in Europe, so they're now becoming a lot more lenient towards fossil fuel because immediately people need power. Because okay, now in Europe, for example, we're coming into warmer climate, right? So now they have some sort of a 3-4 month gap time now to prepare for the next winter. So realistically, we won't be have enough time to roll out solar and wind to compensate for the gap until then. And even if you do, so what do you do with the issue of flexibility of solar and wind, right? So those are practical questions that one has to solve. It doesn't mean that it can't be solved, but I'm saying a short space of time. These are the kind of challenges it brings, yeah. And these are the kind of topics that were discussed. So clearly, and on top of that, if you add into the fact that you have inflation that's pushing energy prices up, so it becomes a bit of an issue, right? And that's one of the things that was discussed at the Davos summit, that measure needs to be put in place to control this inflation, right? This is clearly important. And I want to talk to you about now about the third crisis. This, I'm sure a number of you will not have seen it coming. I didn't see it coming. I have to say, I did not see it coming. But it's still basically a consequence of the war. It was clearly mainly discussed at Davos. It's even more and more discussed. And it's also a threat for us in the industry because all the industry are connected, as I mentioned. And I don't know if somebody could have guessed that. If somebody guessed it, so just drop it in the comments. I'll be happy to see that. What could be the third crisis that I want to talk to you today about? Yeah. By the way, thank you for those of you who are watching me. So I really appreciate it. I know you're taking part of your Sunday to listen to me, and then there are more and more of you following us. I can see some comments here that I'm going to take on from Veronica, from Albert, to Babatunde. Hey guys, I love seeing you connected, and I love you seeing commenting. So make sure that you share, do something for me as well, please. Share the video afterwards, right? So more people can get to know that, and we can get this space where you and I connecting, discussing, and talking about this topic and see what is that we can do, how is it applied to us, and yeah, how can we move things forward? Because in any crisis, that we have, we're always going to have opportunity. The question is, how can I recognize an opportunity? How can I position myself? How minded can I be, right? And then because that's the thing, for the exact same situation, somebody will see a big threat, another one will see a big, huge opportunity that you could have never seen before. Because the thing that crisis brings, it sort of opens up the game to new people that can all of a sudden bring a different solution. For example, I was reading and looking that this pandemic has created new billionaires. Obviously, if you are in the health sector, and all of a sudden, when the world was scrambling towards vaccine, and you had a solution, whatever it was. For example, if you had a solution that will conserve, keep the vaccine to the right temperature. If you have something special, especially in hot countries, obviously you would have made a lot of money if it was robust enough. Okay. Anyway, back into my topic. I don't want to digress a little bit too much, and also I've taken already 20 minutes. I just want to make sure that at least I can take as well some questions before we can close today. So I just wanted to say, yeah. So the third crisis that I'm not sure whether you would have seen that there is now a developing huge, big, enormous food crisis. Yes, there's a huge food supply crisis, and I can tell you, if you are from, for example, from the emerging market, you are saying, okay, I'm not worried about energy crisis. That's a Europe thing. That's fine. I'm not worried too much about inflation crisis. That's American, Europe thing, potentially Asian crisis. Here in my country, I've always struggled with inflation. That there's nothing new. Yeah, I can give you respect. And by the way, so that war is between these two guys. That's not. I don't want to get involved at all, and I'm not. You know, I'm not taking a side. I'm not asking you to take a side. I'm just saying we have to recognize what the crisis. But I'm saying the food crisis would definitely interest you, because actually that food crisis is developing, especially more into the emerging market. Why is it developing? It's developing because it happened that, and I didn't know that it happened that both Ukraine and Russia are two of the biggest food baskets of the world, especially for emerging market. Did you know, for example, that the World Food, I think the World Food Program is getting 50% of the supply from Ukraine, and some of it. And what am I talking about here? I'm talking about things like wheat, corn, all the different grains that you can have. Yeah, coming from Ukraine. And obviously, what are the countries, and how is it going to the war? Well, for the simple fact that, there's a lot of ports in the Black Sea that have been blockaded, obviously, by the controller, whatever. I don't know how you want to say that. So I'm looking to say that in a more neutral, as much neutral way possible. But the fact of the matter is, they've been blocked at the moment, right? They don't operate. So a lot of shipment not going where they were meant to be. where we're going to go. And this affecting a lot of the emerging economies. Yeah. And that can develop, obviously, that develop actually food crisis in those emerging economies. You could talk about, famine, all these things happening. And that's very bad. And also, that means that for the few food that is coming down, it's going to push the price up a little bit more. Yeah. So, and that's one thing that we need to take into into account. It's going to develop a lot of malnutrition, and and so on and so forth. And for us, basically, as an industry, we need to pay attention to that, because, as I say, we all living in a connected world. You can see already that all the side issue that is going to create, just going to keep driving, just going to keep on driving inflation even more and more, because for basic need, like for example food, if we get it much more expensive, or we get much more expensive, obviously it's going to drive inflation up, ultimately drive energy up even more so, and that's going to threaten as well the global energy transition or energy access, whatever you want to see. And those are the consequences, and these are actually event was discussed at the Davos summit. Why? Simply because you had the European leaders, or let's say Western leaders, talking to Russian side to see what kind of solutions could be implemented there. First of all, talk to recognize the situation. I think both sides now recognize the situation. Both sides see that, okay, there must be something that must be done, for the simple reason that both sides at least want to appeal and feel good at the eyes of the emerging market. Many countries that have not asked anything. They're not responsible at all for any for this company, but they're finding themselves actually in the middle of it. Yet again, you can see how an event happening far field from you having a repercussion here, right? And this is the kind of thing that I want to see, and that's what I always say. So, as a good leader, as a good business owner, yeah, as a good professional, that's, for example, what I apply for me. So I would like you to apply the same for you, but obviously you are the one deciding whether how you want to apply it to yourself. So taking such an approach and having a high level vision of what's happening, understanding how it can potentially impact you, and then helping you to anticipate what's going to go, how things are going to go on forward, it's a good practice that I can only recommend. So these are what was discussed at the Davos summit. So my take on it, just to wrap it up, is to say events like Davos, yeah, we could be hypercritical as what it actually represents, what it is. But as far as they remain, right, as far as they remain important summit conferences where you have those world leaders, where you have those different part of the society that come together and discuss, we cannot and should not ignore that. We should always find a way to be represented there, so that we don't have the same guy around the table taking the decision for the billions, right? So we should always find a way to get ourselves there, to have a voice there, to reconnect and to influence the process. And once we understand this process, this is how we can get things to move. It doesn't mean it should stop what's happening in the grassroots. No, everything should be supported. We need people at every level, at the grassroots, at the middle roads, I want to call it, and at the top. We need that, because it's a concerted effort like that that makes things changing. So that's what I want to talk to you today about, because the summit. So I did not have not yeah I refer to it. It happened between the 22nd and 26th of this week. That is closing. I just wanted to give you a roundup about what are the topics that we're discussing. At least you know what are the three crises. We talked about energy crisis, we're talking about inflation crisis, we're talking about obviously the food crisis. As far as I'm concerned, people that are following Renewables in Africa channel, all our readers. So these are actually, events, crisis I want to talk to you about. But it also means that it brings on a number of opportunities for you guys. So just let me know what you think about those different crises. Which one for you is the most important? So are you affected by any of those two? Have you recognized any of those three that I mentioned? And just what you're taking in general. So what I'm gonna do now is just to take a second break, and after that we're gonna look at whatever question people will have. Right? So excellent. So let me do that right away. Okay, I'm back on now. This is the time when I'm looking at the people that send me messages and then share their thought with me. So let me have a look at that. Okay, the first one is saying, as Veronica just saying, hi everyone, nice to be here. I'm from 20 Past Energy in Nigeria. Hey, I think I've noticed that actually, Veronica, that's not the first time you've been laughing. So definitely when I acknowledge you and thank you for that, and I'm just going to say, one of the few, I think one of the times we have that call, I like to invite you to say two words. Yeah, probably going to reach out to you. But if you're in to do that, excellent. Yeah, so just recognize the fact that you support. So great to have you. So Albert, yeah, Albert is a regular guy, so that's my guy. Hey Albert, good to you. You have any comment, any further comments, Albert? So let me know. That's fine. And then I have Baba Tunde said, thanks for bringing this up, Tony. I think one of the agenda focus on topic like climate action, technological white surging. So yeah, thanks for the support. Yeah, Baba Tunde has announced. So yeah, you're definitely going to be on the show. So as I agree with you, so let's just agree on the right time because what I did not say at the moment, I was just taking the time to say right now. For the next 2 weeks, obviously, I'm on the move. So attending various meetings, conferences, traveling. So I'm a little bit on the move, but I conversations with my and that's why I have a dream about Sunday that he was gonna defer his intervention to collect it. That will happen, obviously. Yeah, so that's fine. So yeah, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining. I don't see any other questions that I have here. Just to say to you, just as like you've seen Baba Tunde done it, this is to suggest topic that you want to talk about. So happy to look at that, discuss with you. So what do you feel about what's going on in the energy access world, energy world, renewable energy, any other major events that's happening, if you do you feel affected? I want to know all of it. In the meantime, what I'd like you to do is just to keep following up. Because one thing I really want you to do today is what you're watching, whether you're watching live, you're watching afterwards, make sure please, comment. It's also that you share. It's just to make sure that you contribute to other world. The fast channel will get that into. So we have LinkedIn, so we have YouTube, we have Facebook, we have Twitter, we have Telegram. As I said, any of those as kind of definitely there's multiple ways to contribute. And I definitely would want you to do that. Yeah. So I think I don't see any more questions. So I believe for today we all set, we all good. And then it's time for me now to go back and spend time with the family and prepare for a very, very busy 2 weeks. But until then, obviously, I'll see you on Wednesday. So, guys, so as usual, I can only thank you for support you're giving me, and then love you to bit. And you have a wonderful Sunday. And I usually say, may the sun be with you. Take care, guys.